So where all of these different brands out there, in the end what they are just Android boxes with a label slapped on them. And this is nothing differently. So nowadays we do have different game boxes that actually have emulation and sometimes even like slightly modified in a good way. But the question remains, how is the overall performance with certain systems? I've been complaining or basically bitching about the controllers because they were pretty damn awful. And with this particular model we do have different kind of controllers. Think about this as the beefcake PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 2 controller on steroids. Do I think it's steroids? Like, well, doesn't matter. In the end, it's a beefcake controller and it's so much more comfortable with okay overall quality. Of course, the shoulder buttons feel kind of flimsy and cheap, but that's what you can expect with these, like say, clone controllers. What I do like is the D-pad. This thing is more like the fleeting D-pad. I think it was the same like a Sega Nomad, if I'm recalling it correctly. And the overall quality of the joysticks is not bad at all. And the same goes for the ABHY. It's pretty now awesome in my opinion, and in here we're finding the dongle. So you need to plug it in the USB and connect it in the system. Everything has been configured from the factory, and an on-off switch and two AA batteries. But how about the box itself? Unfortunate, there is no active cooling. A little bit of a downgrade in my opinion. Also the retro box thing that we have reviewed back in the day also comes with the same case, so I'm guessing it's going to be the same kind of performance, but we're just going to try it out. In here we're going to find ourselves the Android 11. 32GB of ROM, and basically this storage is purely for the Android part, not for the retro part. 4GB of RAM, and the model number is GX Max Edition. At the back we're finding these connections over here, including HDMI and a headphone jack out for AV out. At the left we're finding an USB 3.0 and a USB 2.0. And that's actually it. There are no more USB ports, so it's quite limited when it comes to that. Okay, what is quite interesting with this particular box, that you're always going to be booted up into the Android 11 app, and then from that point we need to choose the game box. It's always written in the manual, and we're going to get into the emulation. So it will not automatically boot up into this. So it's interesting because it's a different way how they basically approach this box, where I'm not going to be even bothering about the Android function. So what can we actually play with this? There's a lot of stuff here you can see. I think when it comes to 16-bit, 32-bit, you know, the stuff that will run just fine. I will check out a couple of them, but I will mainly focus on N64 because that is a system that really struggle. Panasonic 3DO, Atomic Wave, you know, the thing that we have seen that struggles the most of the time. That's what we're going to be focusing on. Pressing start will give you the main menu. Now, let's move on to the system settings. I always need to figure out which is AB. Oh, so annoying. Information, I just wanted to showcase what are we having when it comes to the overall specifications. But in here we're finding 4.6K test edition. No idea what kind of build this actually is. It's kind of interesting that it is a test version. And yep, this is the storage space of the disk or the SD card. This thing will already hit 53 Celsius when it's just in idle mode. And that's what we're getting with these, let's say, non or active cooled, let's say, mini boxes. It comes with the S905X for revision C, that's actually in quad core, and it has a GPU that is a Mali G31. The specification that we have seen with previous boxes, but the question remains, how is it configured and how will it run with this particular kind of software? So let's move on into some gaming and let's see and just check out what the performance is. I just wanted to actually see how it will run. You can see it dips down to 55 frames per second. You can just also hear it. Okay, but now we can actually just use the game, so okay. It was kind of interesting but kind of weird that we couldn't change out to the different letters. But you can just see a significant upgrade of all the other ones we've tested out. Of course, it's always going to be a minor upgrade, so it's not going to be an emulation beast compared with mini PCs. But I think it's going to be a hit or miss situation here. The more demanding games, like GoldenEye, will not run perfectly. Same like Blast Corps. So that's actually what we're having when it comes to this particular product. But how does it actually work when it comes to the gameplay? So first of all, you can switch between, let's say, certain modes. So this is the full DS mode. When pressing the right joystick, here we can switch between the displays. R2 will give us the switching of the display to a certain, kind of weird, like it's basically inverted now. But in this case, we can just play and mess around with it. There's even an option to get one single screen. Here we're having the freaking annoying thing that we need to press the start. Well, just to be honest, that it's kind of weird, but you just need to press that left trigger button. That's actually where the A is. But you can just actually play the game. It works pretty well. The overall emulation performance is quite good. But I just wanted to do also a deep dive into Nintendo DS and of course and Game Boy Advance. Both are absolutely amazing systems where I don't like playing Nintendo DS on a device like this. It's one just wanted to showcase it actually worked, but when it comes to the Game Boy Advance, there you have a great performance. And this is exactly what I mean in the beginning of this video. That is just, you know, these systems can run it fairly easy without any problems. But you can also use this on way cheaper devices too. Another system I was really looking forward to check out is Panasonic 3DO. But this is just unplayable, and I have seen it before, where these, let's say, cheaper boxes, or cheap, they're not super cheap, cheap. It's kind of cool that we have 3DO, but they're not powerful enough to run this, and I cannot really enjoy this. But let's move on into the Sega Genesis, and when you're looking at this, I just want to go back to the 16-bit era, one of my favorite systems to play. But it is not all that bad, because the Sega Dreamcast is booting up. But unfortunate, that is something you need to take consideration, that these boxes are not like ready to go sometimes, and there is always some tinkering needed to do. Especially when it's going to be branding this like in Gamebox, you will guess everything, if it's even something on it, that it will be configured at the point that you can just play it. Looking at the FPS, this is a quite nice game to benchmark, one of my favorite games. But I'm just gonna be honest, this is the single game of Sonic 3D era that I actually liked. But we do have some unstable FPS going on native resolution. But to the point I can say that, yeah, it runs good enough that I can really enjoy this. Take consideration also when it comes to Dead Alive and other games that are even more demanding than this. You can have the option that it doesn't run at all. Same story like N64. It's the same shenanigans. There we go. We can just hear stuttering going on. Oh, it's almost dropping to the 50s. You can just hear the audio that it's basically going so... Yep, they were deep diving under the 50 FPSs. But with the Sega Naomi, there we did the trick that we can actually boot it up. So that's kind of cool, and also a great example that you can still manage to fix some things. But then the question, how will it perform? With Sega Dreamcast itself, we did have some issues with Sega... Yeah, with Sonic Adventure 2. And where I was afraid of, that with Dead Alive, that is way more demanding than Sonic Adventure in my opinion. You can see that this is just unfreaking playable. We can always do some tweaking in the emulator itself, but in my opinion, it's not going to be any better whatsoever. But we have reached the point that we can play PlayStation 1 without any problem on native resolution. The unfortunate thing is they do love to remove all of the soundtracks. Yeah, so it's one of the things that happens a lot, and it's quite unfortunate because that's the soul of the game. I've tried out a couple of the games and all of them suffer from the same problem. Yeah, the thing is they try to do this because it will save up a lot of, let's say, space on the SD card. PlayStation Portable will always be this problem that the boxes we're running here, the cheap game boxes, Android boxes, emulation boxes will not run this system perfectly. Where some games, especially the two-dimensional games, are not that demanding, will have an overall okay performance. So when you're looking at the Red Racer number 2, we can just actually see that we have some pretty good overall performance. Oh crap, I pressed the L2 button. Okay. Frame skip have been enabled, but I can tell you that it seems to be running on decent overall emulation performance. Ugh. But in the end, there are a couple of games playable on this particular kind of a game box. But again, like with N64 and all the other systems like Sega Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, if it even was booting up, it's going to be a hit or miss with these things.